Hello, friends, welcome back. So, this is our episode 4, and this episode is all about uh, maybe extending the same discussion that we had last time. That is, we created a server using Express.js instead of using the HTTP, inbuilt HTTP model of the node, and we created a kind of a very little server which was capable enough to make API calls, Northwind API calls, and for that we used Axios as a middleware. Side by side, we tried a different routes to access our local product information. But one thing to notice over here is this file is keep on increasing with the different routes and operations like gate, post, delete. I guess somehow we have used. Yeah. So this all we basically put under the one file, and that keep on increasing with the different operations side by side, the different entities that we are targeting for, and definitely not an elegant way of designing our server. And for that, we'll be using router and controller this time. So just quickly see that what we are planning to do. At a high level, we have created this local products, which is our kind of a local product JSON you can think through. And this is our Northwind API products information, which is also coming as a JSON format. We had two dedicated routes. One was just depicting like API v1. v1 is the version of the API and the products. Side by side, we have the another route that is a route, something people call it, and it is all having a Northwind a part of these routes. Now in this episode, we'll be creating a different two routers which will be responsible to dealing with all specific operations for that particular entities, and or rather the resource. And we are not cluttering the same file with all our routes and things. And we'll also add one more abstraction, and that is using the controller, and that will be seeing how we can make things a little more elegant and decouple things with because currently this all tightly coupled, and very difficult to maintain, understand what's going on inside. So maybe a good opportunity for this episode to share how we can elegant things a little better than what we did last time. So let's begin. So in this episode, we'll be using the same application what we used last time, or that I created last time. I'll be commenting all the codes, and I'll just make only this particular route open, and from there we'll start in this episode. So now you can see this, all the codes are commented. I just kept the above codes as it is because those we'll be using in this episode. Rest all been commented except this main route, and the last one is the listener. Rest all are commented. So if I just run our server and refresh, it's showing hello. Now what to start with, we'll be creating two routers as we just discussed. So let's create a folder and call it as router, and inside that router create two files. One is called local products.js. This is one route that will be handling all the local products operations. The other one is Northwind products.js, and that is all dedicated for the Northwind products. So let's first start with the local products. For that we need Express to bring, and we'll just use require option. And now we'll be creating one router, calling a small router maybe, and we'll be just get router from Express itself. Make sure the route R is capital. So once we get this router, we need to just take this router out of this module by doing module.exports is equal to router. That's it. So this way, this local router is done, but of course the operations are yet to be developed. Now this local product we can access as a middleware from our index.js. So it's very simple. Just like we have to bring this one over here. So let's do constant local product, and that is equal to again required. Now the file starts with router, I guess, yes, and from there we'll be using local product. So this way, this particular local product is now available within our application. Now to use this, we'll be considering the same concept like app.use. We'll be telling app.use, and here the route will be just talking. So the routes we know, we have basically two routes. So any routes coming with this version or fashion rather, that will delegate to our local products. Okay, so this is what we'll be using. So that means whenever application finds anything comes as API v1 products, it will just delegate the call to this local product file. So let's go there and let's write our coding now. So the first thing is we need to bring this particular product.json within this one, right? So let's call it as data, and again I call record, and so that is our data within, and from data we can use the product.json. So that's the way it is available. And now we have the router already created. Use this router and use the router called route, and there will be telling what route we want. So here the prefix will put it as / and followed by the actual CRUD operations. In this case, let's say get to get the local product just in fashion, and within that we'll be having the same callback function that we used to have in our app dot or rather index.js. Now to save certain time, I'll just want to copy paste the code from our last episode, what we already did, but in the router fashion, so that we can speed up the discussion. So here we'll be having get and post operations, and we'll just make the same coding that we did last time. That way we are done. So let's save the records. But yeah, index.js is not yet saved, looks like. So let's save all. So that looks like all gets saved. So then test this application now. This is our Hello Express with the 4000 ports. Just add the same route. Voila, you still see the local JSON files are actually picking from our from this product.json file. So all the data is actually working well with these routing options. So let's also then segregate API for the Northwind API similar way, and then we'll be getting into the controller part. Now for the Northwind, similar way, all things we have again brought into this one, and I think it is something not needed. Yep. And we basically used Axio's instance last time, if you can recall, to our index.js. So this is what we used last time, and just now we have commented. So let's create one more folder and we call it as a middleware. And this one I want to put it like Axios instance with a name, and this one will be just having only the Axios details, and that one will be used wherever we'll be accessing this particular API calls using Axios. So that's the baseline we have added, and the instance we are getting out of this one. So it is part of the middleware. So let's go back to our Northwind products. Let's see if the middleware is all properly spelled out, otherwise it will not work. Let's remove it and just put / yeah, it is still able to recognize this kind of thing just we have created. And after that we'll be putting our code base. Let's do that. So I just added the same code, getting this instance from this Axios instance and calling this API with this sending the information whatever we get as a product for the entity from the Northwind API. So it's the same code, old code. And now to plug in this particular router, and that is called this Northwind products, similar way just like we did for our local products. So just duplicate the code, and in this case it will be this one. This is the route. Copy this and put it over here, and instead of local product we need to grab from the router, and that is Northwind products. Copy this one as the Northwind product and put the same one over here. So that means whenever my API application finds a route like this pattern, it will delegate the call to this Northwind products middleware. So that means it will come over here. So if I save it, it will probably give a syntax error. Let's see why it is. Save all. And it's crashing. And this is because it says that this particular function, async function, top level models is await is waiting. I mean, that's means we have used this await. So that means the top level function needs to be async. Now here, one interesting point to highlight. If I say the node is dying, I'm not sure how much correct this statement should be. But for your information, who are very new to these nodes and coming from above background like me, for your information, this node is actually having little problems, and that the creator of this node, which I explained the first episode of this series, that's a Randall, who identified certain problems with the development constraints and challenges that he ignored that time when he started creating this node project as an open source. But later on in 2018 onwards, he basically tried a new project, and the project named the opposite of node, that is called Dino. Okay, and this project is actually, I don't know, the future of node, because lots of problems we have. For example, just I have seen that if we put await, we need to use async. So those kind of things can be resolved in Dino. One more complicated thing is this particular package.json, and also this node modules, because node modules is keep on increasing with huge number of files the moment we start using the npm and adding lots of other third party or maybe open source modules with the require statement. So it's a complicated algorithm, file dependency algorithm being placed, and that ensures this all node modules are all properly set and it resolves the correct version, etc. So it's a very highly complicated things that been designed. Side by side, this node doesn't have any authentication kind of or authorization. The moment you get an access of this server, you can perform the CRUD operations, right? You can write certain things in your machine. So in the Dino, it will be different, and you have to add certain, kind of an add-on like allow, write or something that you need to use apart from accessing this, application. So you have to add those add-ons in our CLI, command line interface, so that it will work. It will access the database and it can update the information. So that Dino has those kind of features which currently in progress and started in 2018. So you can check this out in internet, and you can probably get information more on that. I don't want to extend this discussion on Node.js, lingering this discussion, because my plan is eventually get into the CAPM. So, but I just wanted to create a crash course kind of a bridge the gap with the developers so that it is useful for them and they can follow along. I'll be spending one more episode, and that is the Node.js middleware as well as the events. Okay, so that is very important, but because these events and all will be using in our CAPM. Okay, so that things will be helpful, I guess. So that's the one more episode, and then we'll get into the CAPM as a development. Okay, so this part is all fine so far, and if I now save this code, I believe it will no more complain. This one, Control S. Yeah, now it is working fine. So now if I want to access this particular API, what we'll be using will be just adding this one, and we are all done with, I guess, right? So instead of this one, we get a different route, and we'll be getting the data all the way from the API, Northwind API. And it's all coming all the way from the Northwind API, because this is the number, as you know, it's not from our local JSON. Cool. So quickly now wrap this thing, and we have understood like how we can delegate the specific routes to a specific router, and that's why this particular server is no more need to be cluttered, and we can just deal with it with the specific middleware. So this is basically a middleware that I'm using with the application. I'm attaching this middleware with this application. Cool. And next is a little bit controller part to talk about. Now you can see this is actually a gate operation, and you don't know what it is doing at a high level, right? You have to just check this code and understand, okay, this is actually getting the data from the products, and it is setting up the header and doing certain status messages and then sending back as a response. So to make it a little more abstract, we will be using controllers. And instead of have this enter code piece like that, we'll be creating a new method called get product, and we'll just pass this get product over here, and that will be more decoupled and will be more, kind of a layering. Just one thing you probably all know, that more layering you create in your software, it is very easy to maintain. But yes, there is a balance needed. It doesn't mean everything to be layered and creating more complicated. So there is a concept called keys principle. Keep it simple, stupid. So this principle definitely applies every places. But in this case, we need to little make things more elegant, and we'll just suppress this one over here, and we'll replace it with a controller. Let's see how to do that. I made a couple of changes. So as you can see, I created a folder called controller, and all my codes I have put now inside this controller file, which is dedicated for my Northwind. And it is same thing. Now the Axios I'm just accessing over here, and it created a method called specific operation, like for the get supply details, which will actually make an expansion, dollar expansion. We'll test this one and we'll see like how it works. So this dollar expansion it will make, and it will just get the products and then make a dollar expansion and followed by the supply details. So that will one kind of operations it will do. Get products, as you know, like it will just give all the products informations. Filter by product in a specific product you want to filter by within any information, which we did last time as a filter. That also you can use it. So this is something I just added 3 methods, and these 3 methods is now available only in the controller section. So now if we go to our router, you see it's more abstracted. In the get operation, I'm just saying, hey, just get the products. If the route contains filter by followed by some ID, then I just want to use this particular method. So this is more elegant, more abstract, and I know what is happening rather than understanding the code. Before understanding the code, I just get an idea what is going to happen with this route, right? So that's the usage of controller and segregation. I have to decouple the features. And the last one is get supply details. So if I just want to go for the expansion operation, expand with supplier or something, then it will be done, get supplier. It will call this particular methods, but make sure we are basically extracting those methods beforehand with the same require options. It's pretty easy. So let's quickly test it, and then we can understand. So now first refresh this one. I think if we just delete it products, so it's a Northwind API. It's actually calling this particular get products. And if I now use a filter by ID, just I want to filter something, and maybe supplier or maybe product. That's a product 2 I want to filter, and yeah, I see only the product filter 2 because it's actually going to this filter by product option. And if we just go there, it will call this method. I'm just splitting this information which we did last time and using a filter as a URI query and getting the data filtered with this value that I'm interested. Even it's not for product ID. I can go for a category ID also. It's very simple. The same thing is generic. If it will search all the category ID too, and you see it's all category ID too, just like we did last time. Now a little bit of expansion. As you know, in OData layer we have a feature called expansion. So if we just see the Northwind API once again, if I just check this Northwind API and just see the metadata of this API, you will see this product is one of the entity type. And for this product, you have this certain navigation property, like say category, then order details and supplier. So using a $expand, you basically can get the supplier information. So let's try this one in separate browser. So let's copy this space, put it over here. I'm planning to create another dedicated video for making an OData URI query, because that probably can be useful for the beginners. So let's run this one with the products, and this will give you the product details, right? And now if I with the products, let's do a query, and you want to put a $expand, and that is equal to supplier. So what will happen? You will now see product, but along with the supplier information, right? So the same feature I wanted to have it in our Node.js applications also. So it's been a default feature, an inbuilt feature for uh, the OData, but in our case, it's not an OData service. We are basically need to write our own logic so that we can avail this feature. So for that, we have already written this logic. If we just go for this first one, $expand field suppler, then it will be working with the with suppler as an add-on. So if I just go there and let's go back to our after filter by, before remove filter by, put with suppler, and then it will go to the products, and after product it will automatically fetch the suppler details. As you can see, just now we have seen in the OData side not doing API, and this is from our local API, and that particular logic is actually helping to get it work for you. That's cool, right? So this is all about the router and controller I wanted to explain. So very soon we'll connect again to our next episode on Node, and there is a middleware and event, because then we'll go back to our actual topic, which is the CAPM, and we'll start with that. Hopefully this overall Node series is helpful to you. Share your feedback, subscribe to my channel if you have not done yet, and thanks for watching for all the contents. See you soon.